I grew up a little bit sheltered. I think I was one of those kids that played by myself. I had a big imagination. I grew up in Kentucky. I was around horses. I always wanted to be like a cowgirl, right? But my cousins always made fun of me because they were a lot more country than me. They said I was a city kid because I grew up on a cul-de-sac. And I will say, though, we had different childhoods. Okay, the biggest difference between a country kid and a city kid is the country kids, they grow up with farm animals, right? And they're a lot more exposed to the circle of life. Like, city kids were a lot more sheltered. Like, when we have a pet, we put we'll put a little sweater on them. Oh, isn't that cute? Oh. And country kids, they put butter on theirs. And they eat it, okay? Country kids, they see death before breakfast. And then they have that death for breakfast. I remember even recently, I went to my cousin's farm that she's raising her 3 kids on, and I was talking to Knox. That's her oldest kid. He's 6. He's telling me how he's helping his daddy with the baby calves. And I was like, well, that's so cool, Knox. What are you doing? You helping feed bottles? And he goes, no, I gotta throw rocks at the buzzards. Because when the calves are born, the buzzards like to circle around up top, and then they dive down and they peck the calves' eyeballs till they can't see no more, and then they can't nurse, and then after a few days they starve to death. Then the buzzards get to eat them for supper, so I got the rocks to the buzzards because Daddy says the government won't let us shoot the bastards. I was like, yeah, I get it. No, I did the same thing, man. When I was your age, I had to feed my gerbil, so. And one time it disappeared, and my mom was like, don't worry, it just got to shed its winter coat. And sure enough, next day it reappeared, a whole new color. I had this little brown boy gerbil. Next day, white girl rabbit. What's up? I'm telling you, these country people, they are so much more at ease with death. I even remember when I was 6 years old, my parents took me to the Kentucky State Horse Park for my birthday because I was obsessed with horses. You got to go. It's in Lexington, Kentucky. There's horses you can pet. There's horses you're not allowed to pet, but you can look them in the eyes and cry. It's Disneyland for middle children. I'm so excited. I'm 6. My birthday party, right? I'm standing outside the front of the park, and I'm looking at a statue of a famous racehorse named Man o' War. When all of a sudden this hillbilly fairy shows up out of a tobacco cloud. He looks like Tinker Bill. And he leans over and he goes, "Oh, Man o' War down there." And I was like, "Whoa." What? And he goes, "Oh, Man o' War down there." And I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I have a boyfriend." And he goes, "No, the whole Man o' War is buried down there." He goes, "Usually when horses die, we gotta chop them up." And I was like, "Oh, I'm 6. I know I'm a big kid now, but this is day 1, so that's a lot to take in." And he just doubles down. He goes, "Usually we cut out the heart and the hooves and just bury that. Represent spirit and the speed." And I was like, "Oh, did my mom hire you for the party?" I go, "What do you do with the unicorn?" He goes, "What?" I was like, "Well, the magic part." And he goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, I have a girlfriend." And the thing my country family is most proud about me for is not selling out theaters. I see you. It's a rat. My demo. Don't get the ceiling in this shot. No, I'm very rich. I'm very successful. This is actually just a fundraiser so that this 2,000-seat theater can finish their roof. It's because I get to go across the country and open up for David Spade as his body double. We booked a private gig. So he got for himself and all his openers, he got us a private jet. And I was so excited because I've flown fourth class my whole life. I'm like, oh, I've never ridden on one. So I get on this private jet. I have to take a private tinkle. And I don't know if you guys have been on, no, you haven't. You're here. Anyways, okay. But I can't find the bathroom because there's no sign. So all of a sudden, the pilot comes out and he kind of scoffs at me. You know, like the valet scoffs at you when you show him how you get in through your trunk. And then he points to this velvet bench that I was sitting on. And he lifts it up and he goes, we hide the toilet seat underneath. And it blew my mind. I was like, what? That's some rich people Hunger Games shit right there. I was like, my people, we don't have the toilet. We come from a land called Coach. And we have signs because we eat solids. And I started spiraling. I'm like, we even play games with our potties, okay? So I'm from a land called Louisville, Kentucky, where they have the Kentucky Derby. Has anyone ever heard of it before? Okay, well read. Okay, front row. Okay, so what it is, if you don't know, it's this fancy event where wealthy people, they watch these animals run around in circles, you know, and after every race, you can see some of them freaking out. Oh, shit, because they just lost their son's college fund on an animal named Buckle Up Buttercup. But at the Derby, they don't let us hillbillies in the stand. They corral us in the infield, right? So we're there watching the horses race, and we get FOMO. We're like, oh, I want to do that. Hold my moonshine. And so we have ourselves something called Porta potty racing, okay? Do y'all know what Porta potties are? I want to make sure. Okay. You never know. My tickets are expensive, so, you know. Okay, so what porta potty racing is, if you don't know, porta potties, they're, I just remember the first time I saw a porta potty, I didn't know what it was. I just saw people like lined up and they were so excited to get inside, you know? They were like, oh my, hurry up! And I was like, oh my, what is in there? 'Cause I grew up very Catholic, so I thought they were little confessionals. Because people they looked so worried before they got in, you know, and then they got out, they were so relieved. So I was, okay, so porta potty racing, what you do is you find a line of these guys, okay? That's a God-made landmark. You can read about it in Genesis. And and you go up to the first one in the line, and you ask a man to help you up to the very tip top of it. And he always does, because you have a sundress on. And then, oh, he looks just like you. I knew, okay. Now I clocked you. Okay, and then the name of the game is to try and run across the top of the porta potties without falling in. It's like the floor is lava, but worse. Because it's human lava. Do you get it? Listen, if you fall in, you're going to wish it was real lava, all right? You would just die, but you don't. And then you just have to remember it at Catholic Mass the next morning. Now, if you get pretty far and you haven't fallen in yet, then there's dudes on the ground that are going to get excited, you know, because now you're their redneck ninja warrior. They're like, oh my God, she's really doing it. And they can't help themselves. They get so excited, they'll throw full beer bottles at your head because that's how their dad showed them they were proud. And then if you dodge all the bottles full of love and you make it to the very end, then you get to get arrested. And then you get to go to jail. And you get to talk to your dad again. Anyways, I said all that to the pilot. And he was like, you belong on Frontier.